Xposed Forehead shares the making of Tricked Out Tailspin.
Hi, I'm Mark G.E.
Hi, I'm Alexander Abragi, and we both directed Tricked Out Tailspin.
That's right. After the band finished the song, then it was up to us to make a music video for it. So we started looking at some ideas. I basically got into this original idea. I was very interested in 70s exploitation, and particularly was interested in some old Liz Taylor movies in the 60s and 70s, Butterfield 8 in particular. And that kind of got us into thinking about a storyline of a woman who was sort of dramatic, maybe having challenges and difficulty in her life, and she was on the run. We don't know why she's on the run, but she's on the run.
You had the idea about kind of the woman at the end of a road, kind of glamorous and just, on the edge. And I kind of thought, and that she had this past that maybe was a little unexplained. And I thought, well, it would be interesting to explore that a bit. And so we kind of bring in this detective to try to figure something out.
The first piece was really trying to find the woman in the car, right?
Yeah.
And we spent quite a bit of time, and since this song took a few years to really get finished, we spent quite a bit of time with different people, different women, different ideas about who the woman would be, looking for cars that we could use. And then it was all under our nose. A friend of ours, Sharon, has a red Corvette and has the right look. And has that glamorous look. And it was like, well, here she is, and here's the car. This is perfect. So we started working along those lines. And then, as you said, Alex, you were talking about how you wanted to add this other aspect of a detective who was following her along the way. And one of my thoughts about that was that the detective is a couple steps behind her, that they're not really hot on her tail. Hot's not really the right word. He's been called there to this motel, right? And he is trying to piece something together, but he's not necessarily the brightest detective, and he's not really that ambitious, right? He's just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And you played the detective, so maybe you could tell me a little bit about that character.
Yeah, we were trying to make sure that he was just, as you said, just kind of behind a few steps, but thinks he's pretty clever about it. I think he thinks that he's got it all together. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. It's kind of up to the viewer to figure that out. But he's kind of behind it all, and I think what we try to do with the editing of it a bit, if I could talk about that,
Sure.
is just to, when we kind of cut to the glamorous woman in this, her lifestyle is very kind of fast-paced and things. And then we cut back to the detective trying to figure it out, and he's just kind of stumped and very slow.
He's lumbering along.
Yeah, and so with your cinematography and what you had spoken about, that was kind of to do these little shots of the hotel that would kind of just slow, that they were very slow and kind of showed the slowness of what was going on there compared to the high action in her drama, right?
Right. I thought that the shots of the woman needed to be action shots, a lot of movement. And I really felt that his shots, the detective shots, needed to be static. And they needed to just be shot with a lockdown camera and hardly any movement. Let's talk a little bit about how we shot it and looked at tone and color grade and all of that. Can you speak to the color grade?
Yeah, we were really trying to just get a retro look, but something that didn't feel like a modern day kind of take on it, because there's so many movies that overdo the grain or overdo those elements that, it feels too much of just a modern outlook on the past. So we wanted to feel like it was in that world and it was lived in. And so, we added some elements that made it kind of filmic and look like a film stock, adding grain and kind of tweaking the color to bring out those reds that those 70s films had.
Yeah, looking at the color, we really had to think about, like, when people talk about 70s, the thing that they tend to think about is like a Scorsese films and things like that are very gritty and realistic.
Dark, yeah.
Yeah, and dark. And that's not the look we were looking for. We realized eventually we were looking more at 70s exploitation films, like Russ Meyer films and things like that, or Dolomite, or even this new film, The Love Witch, which really has that sort of color pop. So we did some research on how you do that, and basically it appears to be raise the contrast and then raise the saturation of all the colors. We also shot it during the day so that we'd have a lot of sunlight. The blues would be really blue, the red would be really red, yellows, greens would really pop, and that's how we accomplished that. And then we looked for a film grain that we could add to have like a 35 millimeter look to it. We didn't want it to look too cheap. In the past, we've done sort of 16 millimeter and also VHS sort of looks. But this time we really wanted to make it and have it be really subtle. So it's barely there. It just adds a nice, warm, thicker texture to the look of everything. But it's not overdone, and it doesn't look like it has some kind of film gimmick going on. If we hadn't mentioned it, people might not really even notice what they're seeing there. One of the things that was really interesting is that we had to go shoot in a motel. We thought that it really should be something that was run down and hadn't changed, and we were looking for a motel that would be sort of out of a past era and hadn't been updated. You can't really go around asking for that. You can't call up motels and say, hey, is your hotel really not updated since the 80s? Because no one's gonna admit that. You can't really say, hey, is your hotel run down? There'll be no, we have a nice motel, right? So we really had to go find them ourselves. That in itself was like a little weird adventure because I had to go to these inexpensive motels with the two of us, and one, you're dressed like a detective, so that frightens everybody who's in the motel, and then two, you and I are checking into a motel for a couple hours, so that was a little awkward.
You had to really explain that to people.
We're
doing a music video.
We tried to do that. We tried to explain, we're doing a music video, and they were like, yeah, I don't want to hear about it. Nobody wanted to hear about it. So I was like, no, really, here's the camera. And maybe they bought, we were filming something, but that was kind of, one guy kind of just told us to move along. But we did find the right location, and I think the perfect motel. We didn't really alter it much. We came in there with our own props and everything and did it, shot it, tried not to touch too much, and then got out.
It was one of those things that it was, we kind of just bumped into. There was kind of a whole line of hotels to kind of explore, right, to figure out what was best.
The other piece that was sort of mentioned to me was that in viewing it, I think at first people might view it and say, well, that looks nice. But really on subsequent views, the more you view it, I think you can start to find more detail in the story and really try to figure out this fun little mystery, what's really going on with the woman and what really happened in the end.
And it's up to you to kind of figure out what he's trying to figure out and what the real mystery is.